It started with the smallest of things. A change in tone, a shift in the air. It was Wednesday. I remember because I had just finished replacing the cracked molding in the guest bathroom, something Claire had nagged me about for months, and I leaned back to admire the work. I was still holding the hammer when I heard the knock at the door. 3 soft taps. Not urgent, not unfamiliar. I thought it was the neighbor's kid, maybe trying to sell me on some school fundraiser again. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked to the front door, half expecting a clipboard and nervous smile. Instead, it was him, the delivery boy. Black ball cap, navy windbreaker, company logo on the chest. Early 20s, maybe younger. Skinny arms, acne just fading from his jawline. He held a bag from Lucky Dragon, our local Chinese spot. And here's the kicker. We hadn't ordered takeout. "Claire?" he asked, peering past me like I wasn't even there. My stomach twisted. "She's not here." His mouth opened, then closed. "Oh, this is 517 Briar, right?" "Yeah, but we didn't order anything." He looked down at the receipt stapled to the bag. "Special instructions say back door." His eyes flicked up to me again, uneasy now. "You sure?" And that's when something flickered behind his expression. A tiny glitch in his performance. Just for a second. But I saw it. I forced a smile. "I'm sure." He handed me the bag anyway, mumbled something about comps and mistakes, and backed away fast. I watched him jog down the driveway, across the street, then disappear around the corner like he couldn't get away fast enough. I set the food on the kitchen counter and stared at it. I wasn't hungry. Not anymore. The bag was still warm. Beef and broccoli, egg rolls, shrimp fried rice, Claire's favorites. She hated Chinese food when we first met, so it made her sluggish. Funny how preferences change without explanation. I didn't say anything to her that night. She came home late. Said traffic was a nightmare. Makeup smudged just a little, the faintest sheen of sweat on her collarbone. I asked about her meeting, and she gave me a half smile and poured a glass of wine before heading upstairs to shower. She didn't see the takeout bag in the trash. Or maybe she did. Maybe she just didn't care. A week passed. Then it happened again. Different night. Same knock. Same delivery boy. This time, I was ready. I waited behind the door. Watched him through the peephole. He hesitated. Knocked once. Then stepped back. I opened the door fast. His eyes went wide like he'd been caught shoplifting. "Oh, sorry. You again." He stammered something about a double order. His hands trembled slightly. "I didn't order anything." "Claire did," he said, then flinched like he'd given something away. "She's not here," I said. "So why don't you tell me what this is really about?" He went quiet. His jaw tensed. Then I heard the soft tap of footsteps coming down the stairs behind me. Claire, in leggings and a tank top. Wet hair. No makeup. Eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. "I ordered it," she said, brushing past me. She took the bag from his hands, fingers grazing his. "Thanks, Leo." Leo. Not delivery guy. Not the kid. A name. Any time, he mumbled. I turned toward her. "You know him?" "Yeah," she said too quickly. "He's just a regular driver. They got my number on file." I didn't say a word. Just watched her walk into the kitchen, watched the way she avoided eye contact, the way her shoulders tensed under my gaze. I stood at the threshold, the air between us thick and strange. That was the night I stopped believing in coincidences. After that night, I started watching. Not in a paranoid, unhinged kind of way. At least that's what I told myself, but with quiet purpose. The way you watch a cracked dam, not knowing when the water's going to burst through. I noticed things. Claire had a new lock screen on her phone, some abstract art crap that looked like spilled paint, a far cry from the picture of us she used to keep. Her texts came in more frequently now, and every time they did, she angled the phone away from me like she was shielding nuclear codes. I didn't say anything. I just started counting. 5 messages before breakfast. 2 while she was brushing her teeth. Another one as she stepped out to pick up almond milk. I checked the fridge later. We already had 2 cartons. She'd been leaving earlier for work. Coming home later. The excuses were always airtight. The meeting ran over. Karen from marketing wanted to grab drinks. Traffic was murder. One night, I checked her odometer before she left. 52,371 miles. She said she was heading to the gym 3 miles away. She got back 2 hours later. I checked again. 52,390, 19 miles. I waited until she was asleep and took her gym bag from the hallway. Dry towel, fresh socks, and used water bottle, still sealed. I put everything back exactly the way I found it. The next morning, she kissed me like nothing was wrong. A little too sweet, a little too deliberate. That's when I started digging. Nothing crazy at first, just her Instagram. A throwback picture from our honeymoon that I hadn't posted. Caption, missing this vibe. Posted while she was supposedly in a quarterly meeting. A few scrolls later, I noticed a like from a user I didn't recognize, Live0.rides. No profile picture. Private account. Something about that username needled at me. I went to our recycling bin. Pulled the old takeout bags. One of the receipts was still in there. The delivery name, Leo R. I started checking every credit card transaction. Tuesday night, she was grabbing drinks with coworkers. My statement said otherwise. $54.20 at a boutique hotel downtown. One room. I looked up the address. The same hotel with those mood-lit pictures in their Instagram stories. Rose petals. Champagne. Scenic views of the city skyline. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. I thought about confronting her then. I rehearsed it in my head. Me tossing the receipt on the table. Her face collapsing under the weight of exposure. But a deeper, colder voice inside me said no. Not yet. You only get one first move. Make it count. So I waited. I played the part. Kissed her in the mornings. Asked about her day. Cooked dinner. She smiled. Laughed. Slipped deeper into the lie. And every time she did, it chipped something off inside me. The real breaking point came a week later. I came home early from work. Pulled into the driveway and saw a delivery scooter parked 2 houses down. Engine still warm. I stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I moved toward the kitchen and froze. Claire's voice. Not talking. Laughing. A low, breathy laugh I hadn't heard in months. I crept toward the hallway, heart pounding like a fist on a door. Just as I rounded the corner, I saw movement. Her shadow, crossing the bedroom. Then another. Leaner. Taller. Male. My blood turned to ice. I stepped back. Waited. 15 minutes later, he left through the side door. Helmet under his arm. Leather gloves stuffed in his back pocket. I watched through the blinds, breathing slow, controlled. He looked around. Not nervous. Not guilty. Comfortable. Practiced. That told me everything. I didn't follow him. I already knew his name. Leo. I didn't go back and right away. I sat in my car. Closed the door. Let the silence wrap around me like a cocoon. And then I opened a new folder on my phone. Named it Clarity. I started documenting. Receipts. Mileage. Screenshots. Photos. Dates. Times. If she was going to lie to my face, I was going to build the truth one brick at a time. Not because I wanted to fix it. No. Because I was done fixing things. I wanted to know what she was willing to risk. How far she was willing to go. I didn't want closure. I wanted confirmation. I wanted ammunition. I wanted control. The next time Leo came to our house, I didn't answer the door. I watched from the upstairs window as Claire opened it. Her hair pulled into a loose bun. Her expression soft, open, warm in a way I hadn't seen in months. He stepped inside without a word. She closed the door behind him. And I kept filming. The funny thing about betrayal is how ordinary the days still look. The sun keeps rising. The coffee still brews. The dog still needs walking. You could be living in the wreckage of your life and no one notices. Not unless you let them. I didn't. I smiled when I needed to. I said good morning. I took the trash out. I mowed the lawn. And all the while I watched. The folder I made, Clarity, started to fill. Time-stamped screenshots. Hotel charges. Messages she didn't know I could see. I'd managed to install a keylogger on the iPad she left unlocked one night while watching Netflix in bed. It was subtle. Silent. It synced everything she typed directly to my cloud. Passwords. Notes. Emails. Including one to him. Leo. Can't wait to see you again. It's like I breathe easier when I'm with you. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Not because it hurt, though it did, but because it sounded like something she'd said to me once. Years ago, when we were still honest. Still in love. I started to wonder when she'd stopped looking at me like that. When she started seeing me as the obstacle instead of the man she built a life with. That weekend, I told her I was going on a work retreat. She smiled and kissed my cheek. "Have fun," she said, already halfway into her phone. I didn't go anywhere. I parked 2 blocks away and watched our house from the shadows. She didn't wait long. 3 hours later, he showed up. Hoodie, backpack, helmet dangling from his fingertips. He knocked once, then let himself in. The door was unlocked. It always was when she was expecting him. I waited until the lights upstairs turned off. Then I waited longer. 3 hours. Then 4. At 2:08 a.m., the downstairs light flicked on. I watched him leave. Watched her stand in the doorway in that thin white robe she used to wear for me. She kissed him, right there on our porch, under our porch light. I wanted to scream, to run up and rip the door off the hinges. But I didn't. I took a photo, then another. Then I went home, let myself in quietly, and lay down beside her while she slept. She smelled like his cologne. My hand stayed at my sides. I didn't sleep, just stared at the ceiling until morning. It wasn't enough anymore to know. I needed her to know I knew, but not directly. Not yet. I started slow. I left a receipt from the hotel on the kitchen counter. Watched her eyes flick to it, then away. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. The next day, I moved Leo's delivery app off her phone's home screen. She re-downloaded it that night. 2 days later, I changed our Wi-Fi password. She asked about it, and I shrugged. Router's been acting up. She didn't press. She was too used to the comfort I always gave her. That was my mistake, making things too easy. That week, I had new locks installed on the side door. She asked why. That old one was sticking, I said. Her smile tightened. She was starting to feel it, that creeping sense that something was off. Not broken, just tilted, a little crooked, and I watched her drown in that unease. She'd stay up later at night, scrolling endlessly. I knew what she was waiting for. A message from him. I disabled their usual app. She was too afraid to text him directly. She started checking the door twice before leaving. Started wearing less makeup around the house. More neutral colors, like she was trying to erase the parts of herself I might recognize. I let it happen, and then I made my first real move. I invited her parents over. Claire's dad is ex-military. Quiet, a man of few words. Her mom, though Marjorie, has always had a mouth like a chainsaw. I knew she didn't like Leo. She'd once called him a pimply delinquent after seeing him drop off food while we were having brunch. So I printed out the photos. Not the raunchy ones. Just enough. Him on the porch. The hotel receipts. Her texts. I placed them in an unmarked envelope and left it by the coat rack, where Marjorie would find it. She did. 10 minutes into their visit, Claire excused herself to the kitchen to pour wine. When she came back, her mother was holding the envelope like it was radioactive. "Claire," she said, sharp and cold. "What the hell is this?" Claire's face drained. I watched the panic climb her throat like a rising tide. She glanced at me. I didn't move, didn't speak, just held her gaze until she looked away. I don't know what that is," she said. Her voice wavered. First time in a long time, I'd heard fear in it. Her dad didn't say a word, just stood up, walked out the front door, and got in the car. Her mom followed, muttering something about embarrassment. The wine glass shook in Claire's hand. She stared at me, waiting for an explanation, for a confrontation. I gave her neither. I stood up, picked up my keys, and walked out without saying a word. That night, she didn't sleep. I could hear her pacing from the driveway, shoes against hardwood, back and forth, like a cage thing. I didn't go back inside. I just waited. I was done pretending. She just didn't know it yet. She started watching me after that. Not openly, not the way I had watched her, but in small ways. Questions slipped into conversation that didn't belong there. "Did you change the router again? You're working late more than usual. Huh? What did my mom say to you before she left?" Her voice carried that faux lightness I used to fall for. Back when I thought her curiosity was cute. Now I could see the teeth behind the smile. She was trying to feel me out, gauge how much I knew, how far I was willing to go. I didn't give her much. I answered like someone on autopilot. Misdirection, silence, half-truths. Meanwhile, I was downstairs clearing out the cellar. It started with an idea I couldn't shake. I wasn't planning anything violent, don't get me wrong, but I needed somewhere to think, somewhere separate, Private. A war room. The cellar was perfect. It had a door that locked from the inside, a heavy-duty bolt I installed without her noticing. I set up a workbench, an old corkboard, 2 folding chairs, and a single dangling light bulb that gave off the kind of yellow that makes your skin look sickly. Fitting. I printed everything I'd found so far and pinned it up. Pictures, maps, timelines. The cash withdrawals she thought I wouldn't notice. The burner phone registered under a fake name she used to use in college, Jenna Price. She thought I wouldn't remember, but I remember everything. I set up a second board beside it. Blank. For Leo. I didn't know much about him beyond the deliveries, the hotel visits, the strange confidence of someone who believed he'd won something. I started filling in slowly. Found a photo of him tagged at a motorcycle shop across town. Matched the tattoo on his wrist to a place downtown. Spoke to a girl who used to date him. Said he was charming, quick to talk, quick to leave. No job history beyond a few months here and there. No degree, no direction, just drift. Claire always said she couldn't stand lazy men. Guess her standards changed. The girl, Sasha, told me Leo used to brag about older women he'd met on his routes. Said they tipped better if you smiled, if you listened, if you offered to stay a while. He called them clients. Claire wasn't the first, just the only one dumb enough to fall in love. I thanked Sasha, slipped her a $50, and left. The more I learned, the more I felt the fire return. Not just rage. Purpose. This wasn't about pain anymore. This was about precision. And justice. And maybe something darker I hadn't named yet. That weekend, Claire told me she was going to a wellness retreat with her friend Lena. I nodded, kissed her cheek, said, "You deserve it." She left the next morning in yoga pants and a suitcase full of lies. I gave her 2 hours, then followed. Not far, just enough to confirm she wasn't going to Lena's. She wasn't. She met Leo at a rest stop 20 miles out of town. Hugged him like he'd just returned from war. I parked on the far end, behind a landscaping truck, camera in hand. Snapped 4 pictures as they got into his car. Her hand on his thigh. His grin stretched wide like a child who found a loaded gun. They drove south. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I already knew where they were going. I had GPS pings from the burner she forgot I still had synced to our cloud from 3 years ago when we shared everything. It was a cabin. Rental. Remote. Cheap. Booked under the same fake name, Jenna Price. I watched the dot blink across the map. Then I drove home and finished setting the last screw into the bolt on the cellar door. That night, I called her. She didn't answer. Sent a text instead. "Signal is spotty up here. Love you." I stared at those words. Love you. A phrase so worn down by her mouth it meant nothing now. I typed back, "Miss you already." Then I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the stillness wrap around me. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. When she returned Sunday evening, she was sun-kissed and loose-limbed. Her smile came easy. Her bag smelled like cheap cologne and cigarettes. "Feel better?" I asked. She nodded, eyes shining. I really needed that. I reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm glad. She didn't see the tiny black that I placed under her bumper, or the keylogger still syncing every word she typed. She didn't notice the hard drive tucked under the floorboard in the cellar. She didn't smell the scent of Sasha's perfume still clinging to my jacket. I play my part, because when this ends, I want her to be surprised. I want the moment to hit like an earthquake. Sudden, total, irreversible. I want her to feel the way I felt the moment I realized the woman I married was gone. Not replaced, just hollowed out and filled with something selfish and feral and foreign. She went to bed early that night. Said she had a headache. I waited 30 minutes, then went down to the cellar. I stared at the photos. Leo, Claire, the rental, the receipts, the passwords, the empty promises. I pulled a new pin from the drawer and added one more photo. A recent one. Claire, standing at the window of the cabin, looking out toward the trees. Not smiling, just staring. Her reflection warped by the dirty glass. That was the night I made my decision. This wouldn't end with shouting. Not with a confession. Not with tears or apologies. I wasn't interested in salvaging anything. I was going to make them feel it. I was going to make it unforgettable that I didn't expect the letter. Not in this age of digital everything. Not from her. But there was on a Thursday, sitting in the mailbox like a ghost from another life. No return address, just my name on the front in that rounded, careful handwriting she used when she wrote holiday cards or signed checks for her Christmas tips. I opened it with a knife, slowly, like it might bleed. Inside was a single sheet of paper, cream-colored, smooth. One sentence. I think you know. No signature. No date. I read it 5 times. Tried to find the tremble in her pen strokes. Tried to hear her voice in the space between those 4 words. I think you know. Know what, Claire? That you've been sneaking around with a boy half your age? That I watched him leave your body-shaped outline in our bed? That I found your emails, your burner phone, your receipts, your plan? Did you mean that? Or was this something else? A taunt? A cry for help? A test to see if I'd flinch? I didn't. I folded the paper and placed it in the drawer beside my gun. I hadn't taken it out in years. Didn't need to. But that morning I cleaned it. Just in case. Not for violence. Not yet. But cleaning it felt like something I needed to do. A ritual. A way of reminding myself I still had control. Claire was rattled. I could feel it. The pressure was getting to her. She moved through the house like she was waiting for something to fall. She checked her phone constantly now, even when it hadn't buzzed. She started closing doors she used to leave open. She asked me how work was 3 days in a row, like she was trying to get a read on whether I'd cracked. I hadn't. She had. She still went out, still smiled, still posted throwback selfies of us on Instagram like we were fine. Hashtag Throwback Thursday. Hashtag Lucky in Love. I saved the post. Not because I believed it. Because I wanted a timestamp for the trial. She was still seeing Leo. Still covering her tracks. But not well enough. The cabin had security cameras. She didn't know that. Or maybe she thought no one would ever access the rental logs. I did. I posed as a curious future guest. Emailed the owner about their system. He offered to send me test footage. Here's what the porch cam picked up last weekend. Quality's a little grainy, but you get the idea. He attached 4 clips. I downloaded them all, heart cold and steady. The first was just them arriving. Her dragging her suitcase, him tossing his helmet. The second was them on the porch, kissing again. Third was the inside cam. Brief, blurry, but clear enough. The 4th clip, the one I wasn't expecting, was Leo. Alone, in the kitchen, shirtless, digging through Claire's purse, pulling out her wallet, her phone, taking a photo of something. My pulse ticked higher. I froze the frame. Zoomed. It was a photo of her driver's license. Her insurance card. Why would he need that? My gut twisted. That's when I realized Leo wasn't just a stupid kid chasing a married woman. He was collecting, compiling, staging. I looked back at the older photos I'd gathered. The receipts, the emails, the screenshots from Claire's burner. And I saw the pattern I'd missed. Leo wasn't just screwing my wife. He was setting her up. I called Sasha again, the ex. She picked up on the 3rd ring, her voice cautious. You were right, I said. He's not just in it for the thrill. She didn't even ask what I meant. She just said, he's done it before. I listened. 6 years ago, Leo was involved with another older woman. A married one. She emptied her savings, filed for divorce, moved in with him. 2 months later, she was bankrupt, arrested for fraud, and Leo was gone. Sasha said she only found out because the woman's daughter tracked her down, desperate for answers. He's a parasite, she said. He finds lonely women, uses them, then vanishes. Claire wasn't special. She was next. I hung up and sat with that for a long time. Not out of sympathy, but out of calculation. Because now I wasn't the only one being betrayed. Leo had plans of his own. And Claire? She had no idea. That night, I asked her to dinner. Just the 2 of us. Feels like we haven't connected in a while, I said, watching her face for any twitch, any crack. She blinked, swallowed, smiled. I'd like that. We went to the place where we used to celebrate anniversaries. Italian. Soft lighting. Booths like little confessionals. She dressed like she was trying. Red lipstick. Heels. No phone out on the table. We made small talk for 20 minutes. She asked about work. I asked about her retreat. I didn't mention Leo. Not once. But I did say, I've been thinking a lot lately. About what we used to be. That cracked something. Her smile faltered. She reached for her wine. Yeah, me too. Do you still love me? I asked. She blinked fast. Of course I do. Then tell me the truth, I said, my voice flat. About him. She froze. Her fork slipped off the plate, clattered on the floor. A waiter glanced over. She didn't speak, just stared at me like I'd pulled a knife and set it on the table. It's okay, I said, leaning closer. You can lie, but I'll still know. She opened her mouth, then closed it, picked up her wine glass with trembling hands. I didn't press. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough. On the ride home, she cried silently, stared out the window, said nothing. When we got back, she went straight to bed. I stayed in the living room and opened the envelope she thought I didn't know she'd hidden in her purse. It was a check, $10,000, made out to cash, dated next week. The memo line read, just in case. Claire was planning to run, and Leo, he was planning to rob her before she could. She left the house just after noon on Thursday. Said she had errands. Kissed my cheek, lingered a second too long, like it might be the last time. I didn't stop her. I just watched the way she avoided my eyes when she picked up her purse, the one that used to hold lipstick and receipts from date nights, now hiding cash withdrawals and burner phones and escape plans. She thought I didn't know. She thought she still had time. Leo's scooter was parked 4 blocks away, half hidden behind a dumpster. I passed it an hour later, walked by like I was just another bored man taking a stroll through a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't even locked up. Cocky. Reckless. That's how I knew he thought he'd already won. I kept walking, made the full loop, then headed back to the house and opened the laptop she thought I never used. Claire was careless when she was scared. Her Google Maps search history had a recent PIN, an ATM behind a liquor store downtown. She looked up withdrawal limits, nearby banks, how to transfer cash quickly. It was all there. I watched her move in real time on the tracker I'd slipped into the lining of her purse. She didn't know it was there, stitched under the zipper, synced to my old developer account from my security testing days. She was at the liquor store now, then the ATM, then a second one across town. I watched her pull out the money in fragments, avoiding detection. It was smart, thought out. I would have been proud if it hadn't been aimed at me. By 3 p.m., she was parked outside an abandoned warehouse on 9th. That part of town, empty lots, graffiti, chain-link fences half-eaten by rust. I'd scoped it the night before. Leo's favorite meeting place. He used it like a neutral zone. No cameras, no people, just silence and concrete. I knew what was happening. She was making the drop, giving him the money so he could get things ready, so he could scout ahead. He'd promised her a clean start. Maui, new names, freedom. She didn't realize she was just one of many. I didn't follow her in. I didn't need to. I had eyes there already. A camera mounted in an old light fixture across the street. Had it running for days. Fed into a private channel only I could access. I watched her step out of the car, clutching a small black bag. She looked nervous. Pale. No makeup. Hair tied back. She stood by the rusted door. Waited. 5 minutes. Then Leo showed. Same smug walk. Same cocky grin. He hugged her. Kissed her. Took the bag. Didn't check it. That was the part that got me. He didn't count the money. He didn't open it. He just smiled and slipped it under his jacket like it was already his. Then he whispered something in her ear. She nodded. They kissed again. And then he was gone. Vanished into the building like smoke. Claire stood there a moment longer, alone, hugging herself like she'd just handed over her soul. Then she got back in the car and drove home. She didn't speak when she came in. Said she was tired. Went upstairs. Showered for 37 minutes. When she came out, she didn't look at me. I didn't speak. I just sat in the kitchen staring at my phone, replaying the footage again and again. I should have been furious, but what I felt was colder. Focused. This was the part of the story where most people break. Where they scream, confront, tear it all down. I didn't. I waited, because there was one more play left. That night, when she was asleep, I took her phone, pulled the text she thought she deleted. Leo, once I've got it, I'm out. Leo, no need to say goodbye. Just disappear. Leo, he'll be fine. He's too slow to see it coming. I saved them all. Airdropped them to my drive. The next morning, she was gone again. Said she had yoga. Said she'd be back by lunch. She never made it to yoga. Her tracker showed her parked by the same warehouse. Waiting. But Leo wasn't coming. He'd already run. An hour after she left, I got a message. Anonymous number. One line. Thanks for everything. I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. The cash Claire gave him? It wasn't just cash. It was marked. Tainted. I'd replaced half the bills with counterfeit stacks, so perfect they'd pass at a glance, but fail under real scrutiny. I'd slipped in a tracker, slim as a business card, buried beneath the lining. I'd printed property of law enforcement in invisible ink across every real bill. A trick I'd learned in a class she never knew I took. Leo wasn't going to paradise. He was walking into a trap. I waited 3 hours. Then I called her. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Calm. Direct. Claire. I know. I've known. But there's something you should know, too. He's not who you think he is. He never was. You're not running from me. You're running with a ghost. And he just stole from the wrong man. I hung up. 10 minutes later, her icon started moving again. Fast. Erratic. She was driving too fast. Swerving through streets like she didn't care who saw her. Her destination? Police station. I didn't follow. I watched. Let her panic unfold in real time. 30 minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. A call from a restricted number. I answered. You set me up, Leo's voice snarled. You had no idea what you were dealing with. I smiled. Neither did you. You think this is over? No, I said. I think it's just getting good. He cursed. Something about revenge. About payback. Then the line cut. I didn't call back. I let the silence close like a noose. Claire came home that night broken. Her eyes hollow. Her voice quiet. She didn't ask me any questions. Just stood in the doorway like she was waiting for a verdict. I didn't give her one. I just said, he's gone. Her knees buckled. She collapsed into a chair. Covered her mouth. Didn't cry. Not yet. I never meant to, she started. I raised a hand. Don't. Not tonight. She nodded. Curled into herself. She looked like someone who'd just realized the story she thought she was in had turned against her. And she was right. Because I wasn't the one who'd been betrayed anymore. I was the one holding the pen. She didn't leave the house for 2 days. Not even to get the mail. She sat in the living room with the curtains half drawn, the TV playing shows she wasn't watching, her phone face down on the coffee table. She barely ate, barely spoke. The confidence that once poured off her in waves gone. Her voice, when it came, was soft, unsure, like a child trying to figure out how to apologize to a parent who already knows the truth. I let her sit in it, let her stew. I didn't offer comfort, didn't press. I wanted her to feel the weight. Not the weight of my anger. I wasn't angry anymore. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own choices. The space between us wasn't silence. It was consequence. On the third morning, I caught her in the kitchen holding her wedding ring. Just holding it. Not wearing it. Not hiding it. Just studying it like a relic from a religion she didn't believe in anymore. She didn't hear me come in. When she finally noticed me, she jumped like I'd caught her stealing something. Do you want me to leave? She asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I watched her for a long moment, then poured myself a cup of coffee. That depends, I said, not looking up, on whether you want to keep lying. She didn't answer, just slid the ring across the table until it stopped inches from my hand. I didn't touch it. I wasn't interested in symbols anymore. The next day, she packed a bag. Just one. No dramatic speech. No final plea. She paused at the doorway like she wanted to say something meaningful. I beat her to it. You're lucky, I said. Most people don't get to walk away. Her eyes welled up, but I could tell she wasn't sure she was sad for me or just sad for herself. She left without closing the front door. That detail stuck with me. That even in the end, she couldn't be bothered to finish what she started. I didn't call her. Didn't block her. Just let her vanish like a smoke ring blown too close to a fan. I didn't expect to hear from her again. But I was wrong. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Another one. No envelope this time. Just folded, slipped between the pages of a book she once bought me. The Art of War. I hadn't opened it in years. Maybe she was being clever. Maybe she just forgot. The note was handwritten again. 5 lines. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fall. He lied to me too. I should have run when I had the chance. Tell them the truth, if it comes to that. There was no signature, but it was her handwriting. Tired. Faded. Like her hand was shaking when she wrote it. I didn't know what she meant by, if it comes to that. Not yet, but I would. Later that night, I got a knock on the door. Two men, plain clothes, badges. The one in front was short, wide shoulders, a stare that didn't blink enough. Mr. Langston? Yeah. We'd like to ask you some questions about a man named Leo Medina. My pulse didn't move. What about him? He's missing. The words hung there like smoke in a sealed room. I stepped aside. Let them in. They didn't sit. The taller one started scanning the living room like he was building a profile. The other one asked the questions. When's the last time you saw him? A few weeks ago. Where? On my porch. He was leaving. Leaving what? My wife. His partner scribbled something down. You have a problem with him? He was sleeping with my wife. What kind of answer are you hoping for? That earned the ghost of a smile. Did he threaten you? Take anything. He took her. You report it? No. Why would I? They exchanged a look. Something passed between them. The tall one finally spoke. He had some priors. Fraud. Theft. One woman pressed charges, but it got buried. Claire Langston's name showed up in some of his call logs. And then she disappeared for a bit. Any idea where she is now? No, that was a lie. I knew exactly where she was. Holed up in a motel on Route 6. I was still tracking the burner. Did she have anything to do with his disappearance? I looked them in the eye. I don't know, but I hope so. They didn't laugh, didn't flinch, just wrote it down. One of them asked to see my security footage. I let them. Show them a version I edited. Clean, uneventful, boring. They didn't push. Just left a card and a warning. If you remember anything, call us. I closed the door behind them. Locked it. Exhaled. It was starting. The final act. I pulled out my phone. Checked the GPS. She was still at the motel. Still alone. I thought about her last line. Tell them the truth if it comes to that. I wasn't sure which truth she meant. The one where she was the victim? The one where she was the accomplice? Or the one where I let Leo walk into a trap I didn't spring? Because here's what I hadn't told anyone. Leo wasn't missing. Not exactly. I'd found a cabin he'd rented under a new alias. Tracked the credit card. Waited. And one night, I drove out there. Watched the lights go on. Then off. I didn't go inside. Didn't touch the door. I just set the envelope on the porch. Inside, the receipts, the photos, the letters. Everything he used to manipulate her. Everything she gave him in return. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. A mirror. If he was smart, he'd see it and run. If he was dumb, he'd come back. That was 2 weeks ago. No movement since. No digital trail. No pings. Just silence. Maybe he skipped town. Maybe he didn't make it far. Maybe Claire did more than I ever intended. I wasn't sure, but I knew one thing. Someone was going to come looking, and when they did, I'd be ready. Not to confess. Not to beg. Just to explain. The way a surgeon explains the purpose of every incision. Calm. Clinical. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clean, and I was waiting for someone to ask me the right question. 3 days passed. Then the knock came. Not soft like Leo's. Not uncertain like Claire's parents. This one was firm. Measured. Law enforcement knock. I opened the door slowly. Same detective from before. Wide shoulders, shaved head, the stare that never blinked. He held a folder in one hand. The look he gave me said he wasn't asking anymore. We found a cabin, he said. I nodded. He stepped in without waiting for permission. Set the folder on the kitchen counter and opened it. Inside, photos. Grainy. Dark. One of Leo's scooter abandoned off a trail. Another of the porch, my envelope sitting there unopened. One more of a blood smear on the cabin door frame. You recognize this? He asked. Should I? He watched me. Long enough for the silence to thicken. Claire turned herself in, he said finally. That landed different. Sharp. Cold. Said you warned her. Said she thinks Leo's dead. I didn't react. Because maybe he was. Maybe she made the final cut. Or maybe he ran, like he always did, and this was just the aftermath of two liars turning on each other. She said you kept everything, the detective added. Evidence. Notes. Timelines. I didn't deny it. He looked around the house. At the couch she cried on. At the ring still sitting where she left it. If it comes to trial, he said, you ready to talk? I stared back at him. Thought about Claire. About Leo. About how far a man can fall before he starts climbing again. I'll talk, I said, but only when it matters. He closed the folder, tapped it once with 2 fingers, then walked out. This time, I shut the door myself, quietly, firmly, and locked it.